What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Stars and Strikes podcast. My name's Ryan Deeb. I'm here with Messman. We know it's been a while, but we hope we had some good coverage during that last camp. And now we got some more exciting news to talk about with a new winter camp coming up for one friendly against El Salvador. So before we get too far into it, this is Stars and Strikes, the road to Qatar. Yeah, so of course we have that big camp coming up because it's this camp this time has a lot of different names in it, a lot of different people to look at. But beforehand, we want to talk some more about those European guys, Chaz. What do we see today and the last few weeks?
Absolutely. Today was a massive day for the boys over in Europe. Weston McKennie scored his first goal for Juventus. It was a corner kick, off a set piece, a header, tied the game in the derby against Torino. And how about Gio Reyna with an absolute thunderbolt of a goal today for Borussia Dortmund? Sorry for me to get excited, but boy, was that a screamer.
Yeah, and both of these goals were very crucial for their teams. Not only are great to see our guys score for big clubs, but they're stepping up for their teams and proving big when they need them. I mean, especially in the derby over in Italy, Juve was losing for the majority of the game. They're down 1-0 to Torino. They bring Weston McKennie on, I think, around the 60th minute or so, and he leads them, charges them towards the win. So that's huge to see from him. The goal was really nice off a beautiful Cuadrado cross in, but he took the initiative and headed it down. When Ronaldo's on the pitch too, we see our guy McKennie rising up above anybody. So love to see it.
Absolutely. Weston McKennie showing once again his ability in the air. He scored a couple of crucial goals for Schalke last year with his head. And how about Tyler Adams also in the Bundesliga, getting the start against Bayern Munich in a 3-3 draw?
Yeah, so that's a big talking point too, because we know that Tyler Adams is kind of in a tangle with a lot of the other midfielders over at Leipzig, and they have quality in midfield, and that's partially a lot to blame to their success. And so sometimes when you don't see Adams get the start, you got to question. I mean, you don't question it because you know they got the quality there, but you also want to see him start. And today he got the nod against obviously the premier team in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich, and he came up big. He had a great performance, especially in the first goal, in the build up to the first goal off of he won over possession, and that's obviously against a team like Bayern. If you want to play on the counter, it all starts with winning the possession deep in the midfield, and he won possession and spurred off a good counterattack for the first goal of the game.
Yeah, a lot of the other guys, including Tyler Adams, played in the Champions League, but I want to shift the focus over to the Europa League. Tim Weah with a nice little assist along the right flank, cut inside. Beautiful little cross pass across the six for a goal that sparked the comeback for Lille against Sparta.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm a Sparta fan just because of my history in the past, and I was watching Sparta just to see my guys out. And then up calls Tim Weah playing right back for Lille, and he comes up big for an assist. And from that point on, it was a downfall for Sparta. So props to Weah for taking the chance, and props to Lille for coming back.
Yeah, Tim Weah did a great job showing off his ability to be diverse and his I can't remember the word. What's the stupid word for the fact you can play multiple positions?
Versatility.
I can't think. Versatility. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. I'm kind of an idiot right now. But
it's the weekend.
Yeah, he showed off his versatility. He obviously was dangerous because that right flank is where he does most of his work. He played in a couple of really nice crosses outside of that assist, but he didn't look out of bounds in defending. He was strong in the air. He's a big physical kid. He's fast. So, I think that's not really where I see him playing for the U.S., of course, and that's not where Lille sees him. It was more of a thing that he just kind of got forced into action there. But he made the most of his opportunity, and good on him. It's great to see a guy that's been out for so long to, start really getting some good minutes and, start creating some opportunities and chances in the Champions League or the Europa League.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest takeaway is that even playing at right back, Lille had when they're jeering on to get that win over Sparta, they had a ton of guys forward, but even playing at right back, Tim had eyes for goal at all times, and he took the initiative to get high up the field, but he also did his defensive duties really well. So props to him. We'd love to see that. That's in its purest form, taking your chance. I mean, he gets thrown on the field in a place where he may not prefer, but at all times he wanted to do what was right for the team, and that's what he does best is scoring goals, getting assists. So good for him.
Another guy we're talking about, this one is an actual defender, Anthony Robinson, putting some really good performances for Fulham. He was absolutely fantastic in their win over Leicester. He created a couple of really nice chances, including one that should have sealed the game off. I believe it was Lookman did not score it, so the game kind of teetered along a little bit. Leicester hang around for a little bit longer than they should have. But Anthony Robinson getting starts consistently. Tim Ream is not. Shocker. But yeah, Anthony Robinson, he played pretty well in his time in the last camp, and he's starting to prove it consistently at the highest level.
And what I've noticed with Fulham too is that there a lot of the times when they switch to that back five or against big teams as well. Obviously, Leicester and Man City in their last two games, they're two pretty powerful teams compared to the likes of Fulham. But it seems like they're putting a lot of emphasis on Robinson to be one of their attacking outlets. And I know for the national team, he wasn't one of those guys for us. We expected him to be a bit more deeper and more defensive minded. So it's good to see that Fulham is kind of jeering him on to be more of the attacking player that modern football calls for.
Absolutely. Like you said, he's a big physical guy. So you're expecting him, to be much more of a defensive back. And this season with Fulham, especially recently, he just hasn't been that. His crosses have been phenomenal. His interplay along the flanks has been really, really good. And, good on it. I mean, I think the left back spot is somewhere we've missed since DeMarcus Beasley has, departed. And I think if he can settle into that role nicely, I mean, with Serginho Dest on the right flank, that's one of the better, fullback combinations in the world, and especially the best in CONCACAF. Mexico doesn't have anything like that.
No way. And that's going to be a big talking point as well as we move into our talk about our squad later is how good our European players are looking. And even when we talk about left back or right back, Dest is obviously not having anyone take that spot, but the next guys in line for the left back spot would be Cannon and then Reggie on the right as well, and even them two were looking sharp in our previous camp in November. So when we talk about our guys later in this upcoming camp for El Salvador, it's going to be interesting to see if any of these guys even are able to get a sniff come World Cup qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. And another little quick shout out. Weston McKinney, Christian Pulisic and Serginho Dest being named in the top 100 players by ESPN in their ESPN top 100. Christian Pulisic was rated as the 6th best winger in the world, getting some respect he deserves. They said it mainly came down to his creativity and his impact following the restart. We know how dynamic he was and how dynamic he is when he's been healthy. Started in midweek for Chelsea in the Champions League. Didn't get the nod today. We'll see if he comes off the bench and makes an impact, but good to see him back on the field doing what he does best. And Serginho Dest coming as the 10th best right back in the world. So good to see some American boys starting to put their names up with the world's elite.
Yeah, and then you know what the funniest part is about that list of fullbacks, the top 10 fullbacks, is that I'm pretty sure that Serginho Dest was the youngest man on that list. Maybe have been tied with Trent Alexander-Arnold, but he's one of the youngest guys on that list. So if you're a betting man, I'd be willing to say he's going to get much higher in the coming years as he grows, as he continues to develop at the best team in the world, really. So
absolutely, and he's a guy that really just kind of came out of nowhere. Like his meteoric rise in like only a year. And then when you look at a guy like Christian Pulisic, just look at a couple of the players that he's rated above. He's rated ahead of guys like Kingsley Coman, Lucas Ocampos, Eden Hazard, and Vinicius Jr. from Real Madrid. And, those are some of the biggest talents. You look at a guy like Eden Hazard. Yeah, he hasn't been able to play up quite to the level he's been playing at when he was at Chelsea. But, I mean, on his day, that's a top 10 player in the world right there.
Yeah, and that's something that's been at least proud for me to say. I've always seen Christian as one of those guys, so it's good to see him recognized as in the ESPN top 100. I know it's an American paper and all that, but no bias aside, you could definitely argue at this point in Christian's career that he is one of the best wingers on that side of the field for sure, without a doubt.
Absolutely, and you're talking about end product, and that's something that Christian has, and a lot of these younger players don't necessarily have. He scored 9 goals in 25 appearances for Chelsea. That's a really good output from a wide player. And we just know how dynamic and how much of an impact and how he can take over a game by himself. And I just hope that he can find that fitness again. Big old bearded Christian. Movember did him dirty. hopefully he can get back to his best and start getting consistent minutes without the injuries, because it's really a shame when you see such a talented player that just can't seem to get that run of games because of injury.
Yeah, and as soon as he gets that run of games, hopefully he could stay fit until next winter. We got that next fall, next winter. We got that schedule for our World Cup qualifying. So if we have all of our guys ready for World Cup qualifying, including Christian Pulisic, when he's in good form by then, it's gonna be trouble for those CONCACAF opponents, man.
You mentioned the World Cup qualifying schedule coming out. We start off in 2021 September, so a little bit longer than we expected, but we don't know the first couple of opponents. First, we do know we play Mexico in 2021, and then in March 2022. So maybe the World Cup being pushed back a bit because of the heat over in Qatar actually did the CONCACAF and the other, footballing federations a bit of a favor, because now there's a little bit more time to get all those qualifying matches in.
Yeah. So it's exciting to see our schedule get in, but also it is some ways away. So we can't be too comfortable yet. I know it's we saw our guys out in November, and we're about to see more in December now, and it's almost like let's bounce straight into World Cup qualifying right now. But unfortunately, we still got a little under a year to go. Yeah. So yeah, after seeing how positive we were then, I just wanna get into some actual competitive matches now, but maybe a while.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the matches. This match came up pretty quickly, but El Salvador, we got a game against someone we might even see in qualifying coming up. Right before we get into that, it's a big MLS team, so we're going to talk about the MLS playoffs. I think we have to just a little bit. They're now in the semifinal stage. Jordan Morris and the Seattle Sounders taking on Minnesota United, and the other semifinal, Gyasi Zardes and the Columbus Crew up against the New England Revolution.
Yeah, and this is at least for me, from someone who doesn't watch too much MLS. We were just looking at squads before the game and talking about things. This is an interesting semifinal matchup, because we got teams like Minnesota United and New England, which are obviously very their squads aren't nearly as strong as, say, the likes of Seattle or Columbus, but it's just the team dynamic that both of those squads have going. I think this is only Minnesota United's second or third year playing in the MLS, and they're proving to be a formidable opponent. Just like Nashville City, I think this was Nashville's first season, right? Inaugural season, and they were quite impressive with Walker Zimmerman leading the line. So it's been an impressive season for a lot of underdog teams this year. A lot of coaches have been on top of the tactical game of football and been taking it to big opponents and moving on through this tournament. So
you mentioned the underdog.
No,
you mentioned the underdog factor. How about New England Revolution? They took down Philadelphia Union, the number 1 seed, on their side of the bracket, and then beat Orlando City, a team with a lot more talent than they did. And you mentioned a team that aren't underperformed, like the LA Galaxy. They were absolutely atrocious this season. And think about all the big name players and the talent that they have there.
Yeah, and this is when we talk about teams like LA Galaxy and maybe say New York City FC, who also went down in the first round of 16 leg of the playoffs. These are teams that have kind of for a while put their focus on big name, big signing players, spend a lot of money. Obviously, New York City FC being linked with the owners of Man City, they kind of have that same philosophy as Man City. But it's starting to seem like in MLS we're having a culture shift with the likes of FC Dallas and a Philadelphia Union, Real Salt Lake having these really insanely productive academies, and they're building a culture around these teams that is just proving to be very successful in the long run, rather than just throwing money at some retiree from Europe. And so hopefully this culture switch comes in our favor as we start to build more academy products out of our home soil.
Absolutely. And you mentioned one of those academy products is probably the big name in the December camp roster. I think he's the guy we're most excited to see. One of the MLS best 11 midfielders, Brendan Aronson. I can't not wait to see him. I think he's the one guy that when this camp roster came out, and I was like, dude, I can't wait to watch this kid play for the national team.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's like this squad screams kind of a lot of excitement as the last squad, because it's so many young guys. It's just a lot of young guys that we're able to pick from now. I mean, we don't have any of our older Toronto guys in the squad. We don't have really much experience at all. The only guy I'd say is Leggett, and then second to that is Paul Arriola, who's only 25 years old. So we got tons of new stuff to talk about.
I mean, it's just great to see Paul back in the side. He had that devastating knee injury. This is he's been out for so long. Shout out to him. You know, I wish nothing but the best of him. Like, you know, to see him back on the field is going to be a good thing because when he did his cruciate, you never want to see a player go through that.
Oh, of course. And he was kind of building a little cult following in his last spurt with the national team. He was one of our comfortable guys on the field, our go-to dynamic players who we love to see on the side of the close to the touchline, cut inside. He's a talented guy on the ball. And so it was really sucked to see him go because a lot of people thought he had a good future for us. So now, but he's only 25, like I said. So now he's back, and hopefully he can have a say in this new project we're working on in the national team.
He's definitely one of the guys that is going to be involved come qualifying time. You know, when you look at this squad, a lot of these are young players breaking through in MLS, and some guys that, you know, aren't quite sure whether or not they're going to be up to the standards of the national team. But you can point to a few guys that are going to be like, you know what, he's going to be important for World Cup qualifying. And Paulo Ariola is one of those guys. We saw him playing in the Gold Cup a couple of years ago. He was doing really well there before he got hurt. And, you know, he wasn't able to play this season for DC United. And, you know, with a player like him, I don't necessarily think in our best 11 he starts, but he definitely is a bench option. He's in that Jordan Morris, Tyler Boyd type mold where they can come off the bench and really make an impact.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he's a guy that we all like too. It's a guy that we want to see. He's a really strong player just when it comes to that mindset, and I think that's something that we need going forward because obviously we've lacked that mindset in the past, and to come back from such a hard injury and to make it back. I mean, get another call up to this camp at least, although it's just a friendly or whatnot. But he's the type of player that we need moving forward to come off of the bench.
When you look at the squad, I think the biggest strength or the strongest thing is through the center. A lot of the wingers, it's not right there. The fullbacks, not quite at the level that we saw at the last previous camp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, we were talking about this. There's barely any wide players at all. As far as fullbacks go, our midfield is pretty compact as well. But
part of that, I think, has to be down to the fact of the teams that are still in the MLS playoffs. Like, look at the Seattle Sounders. You know, if the playoffs were done, Jordan Morris is definitely going to be in the squad. I mean, you know, if it was an important match, you'd see Josie Altidore and Michael Bradley, although they're center players. But you know what I mean? Like I was saying, the strength of this team is in the center defense. You got Aaron Long, who's arguably going to be a starter for the team with that full strength. And you got two MLS's best 11 players in Walker Zimmerman and Mark McKenzie.
Yeah, for sure. And then we go like I said, we don't have many fullback options, but we do have that strength in center defense. So I'm curious to see where these guys will fall when compared to Brooks or Miazga, those guys back that we saw in Europe. But I think definitely if anybody, Walker Zimmerman is one of the guys that we could say may actually be able to break into that European batch of players and be a standout guy for us starting in the back line. So I'm looking forward to seeing him for sure. But yeah, go ahead.
Another guy making his return to the national team. We said we weren't sure if he was going to see him a couple episodes back. Is Kellen Acosta.
Yeah, that's crazy how we were talking about him the other day. Kellen Acosta is back. Who knows how his mindset is this time around? But you know, no hate towards the guy because he's a talented player and he could definitely come in handy for us in the future. I just hope that whatever history he has with the national team at the club level, whatever he had going on in his career is hopefully behind him and he's ready to get focused again. Like we said, he's a guy like Paul Arriola is trying to kickstart his career again after a nasty injury, and he's 25, so Kellyn Acosta can do just as well and change things for himself. Flip the script as you like.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Kellyn Acosta at this stage. He's not a better player than Weston McKennie. He's not a better player than Michael Bradley. He's not a better player than Tyler Adams. He's probably not a better player than Yunus Musa. So does he get into that first 11 from that midfield? No, but if a player can't come for a qualifying match because of club or injury, you know, we do need guys that can step in. We need squad players. It's a roster of 23 guys. You need backups. And they do play a contributing part at World Cups. They do contribute parts at Gold Cups. So hopefully he can step up and become a better player. The player we all hoped he could become a couple of years ago before his hiatus with the national team. Another guy that got added late to the roster was Jackson Ewell, and I want to get your take on it because as of now, I think we both are in the right mindset that Jackson Ewell is probably the guy that Greg Berhalter prefers over Kellen Acosta, but Acosta could change that this camp.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Excuse me, because obviously Jackson Yule wasn't picked at first, but just that I always thought that Berhalter had a little had a knack for Yule, and he really liked that player, and he when people were questioning why he was choosing that guy, he always stuck to that choice of picking Jackson Yule. So I think Berhalter wants to mold him um, into that guy closer to our defense. I mean, obviously we have Adams as first choice, but like you said, we need other options as well. So it seems to be that Jackson Yule is Berhalter's guy. Obviously, Berhalter seems to have who knows what his decision making skills are or his rationale behind things because we see Sebastian Lletget back with his squad too. He has favorites it seems, but Jackson Yule seems to be one of those guys that he wants to incorporate into the team. And although maybe I'm not the hugest fan of Jackson Yule, I haven't been convinced of him quite yet. I think it's worth a shot at seeing any of these options as who can replace Michael Bradley. It's not worth keeping him out of the squad. That's for sure.
Absolutely. You mentioned Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore, the two main names that they're not in the playoffs anymore, but they're not in the squad. And I heard some people and stuff I saw some stuff on the internet saying, "Oh, that means they're totally done." No, it doesn't. It just means there's no use to playing them in this.
Mm-hmm.
They're not playing alongside guys that they would be playing alongside, in qualifying. Because at the end of the day, does Michael Bradley need to go line up alongside Cole Bassett and Kellen Acosta right now? No. Does Josie Altidore need to start building up a relationship with Daryl Dake or DK? Excuse me. No, because the reality is when we need them, we're going to need them alongside the likes of Gio Reyna, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, and all those guys. So it just doesn't seem like there's much of a point. And considering the quality of the opposition, they're just not going to get much out of it.
Yeah, and as those are those are always safer options. Like when we talk about Josie Altidore, he's undoubtedly our best guy at the number 9, and he's the safe option. But what these camps are for is testing out our other options. So there's no point in taking away a spot from potentially a guy that we could see could train with the guys, test them out, and replace them with somebody who we know is viable, such as Josie Altidore or Michael Bradley. So that's why when we talk about Jackson Yule, this is we know that Berhalter likes the guy and that we that he has plans for him, or he wants to have plans for him at least. But there's no point in bringing Bradley into this camp when this camp is to check out the players like Jackson Yule and give them a shot and see where they could fall into this team.
And Jackson Yule and Kellen Acosta are very different players. You got Jackson Yule is much more of a ball playing distributor, and and then Kellen Acosta is a destroyer in the center of the park. So they're different type of roles, and something we don't necessarily have as of right now is that ball distributor. And maybe that's because Michael Bradley's been that guy for so long, but outside of him, we don't have that. You see Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, all those guys. Those are athletic guys. They want to get up and down the field and get up in your face. And Jackson Yule's the guy that's going to hold possession and just kind of distribute things.
Oh yeah, for sure. And another guy that I'm curious to see what you think his role is playing in this camp is Sebastian Lletget. We just saw him in Europe as the sole American American club player to join us over in Europe. What do you think his role is in this squad in particular, as we talk about players like Bradley and Altidore not being picked? Why do you think Sebastian Lletget is here?
You said Greg's got his guys. I think Greg just really likes Sebastian Lletget. We know he's a talented player. He scored a goal against Panama. So I think he's a good player. Is he one of the guys that I'm really excited to see? No, because I know exactly what it is. Do I think he's a guy that's going to be involved in qualifying? Absolutely. He falls into that Paul Arriola type mold.
Yeah, see, with all the names on this list, all exciting new guys to see. We see so many guys with 0 caps, and I mean Paul Arriola kind of. I'm putting him at 0 caps too. He gets a restart after that injury. He's starting fresh, but it just seems like Sebastian Lletget should have been one of those guys who we know we know is a viable option, like Bradley, like Altidore, who is it seems interesting that he's at this camp as well. But um, what I kind of see from maybe Berhalter's perspective is that Sebastian Lletget is maybe trying to take up that role as the father figure, the Captain America who may not be playing, but the older guy who's meant to link all these players together. Because right now we have a lot of European players who we think of are our best options, um, and now we have a bunch of MLS guys. And the last thing that I want would there to be kind of a divide with these guys, because some are European and some are MLS, and we need these guys to play together as a unit. And if we throw some of these MLS guys in with the European guys, I expect it to flow freely and all that. So I think if anything, he may want Sebastian Lletget to be playing that role for both of these guys as the father figure moving forward, to kind of um, link,
Mesh it together.
yeah, mesh the guys. He's gonna be the guy who brings this team together. Even if he's not on the field, he's a fun, likable guy that if Bradley's not there to take the authoritative um, maturity role, Sebastian Lletget could be that guy potentially.
You mentioned players getting thrown, or European and MLS players getting thrown in together. A guy that just got thrown into the squad, Sebastian Soto today. I can't be more happy. I mean, obviously he's playing over in Europe, but now he's part of the squad. And honestly, he's a player I want to see get some good game time. I mean, what a cameo he had. He was a player we were calling. I'm like, where's Sebastian Soto? What is he going to do? We want to see him. What's going on? Comes off the bench, scores 2 goals, and now he's right back, and hopefully he scores again.
Yeah, so it's funny because it makes me think maybe Berhalter wasn't quite sure of the talent that he had on his hands, and now he's just begging to see more, because for that whole November camp we only saw like 20 minutes of him, and now it seems to me that Berhalter wants to see more because of that such a star-studded cameo that he put out. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see him. I think it's great because we have really no other really dominant number 9s that I'd be screaming out to see otherwise, other than maybe a few of the young guys. But Soto, if he proved it in Europe, I'd like to see more from him here too. So why not?
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the other guys, Daryl DK and Ao Akinola. I believe I'm saying that right. Ao Akinola, guy that burst onto the scene for Toronto. Daryl DK burst onto the scene for Orlando City. So 2 of the top rookies in MLS, both also number 9s. We don't really have a lot of depth out wide. I think Akinola can play on the wing, and we'll see when we jump into our preferred starting 11s against El Salvador what everyone has. But man, I'm excited to see the team, and it's just I think it's a good thing that they were able to fit another match before the end of the year.
Oh yeah, for sure. It seemed like kind of out of nowhere, but I'm really glad that we're getting this chance to pull these MLS guys together, because, like I was talking about earlier, there's these big powerhouse academies in the MLS that are pumping out talented guys, and I think it's important that we see them at least come together with each other and come together for Greg, so that we know what other potential that we have on American soil versus those guys who are working hard over abroad. So it's an exciting time. We got exciting players to look at. Do I think many of these guys have a chance of competing with the guys we saw in November? Probably not. But what's important is that, like you said, if a guy drops out, we have the quality to replace them, or we have the squad depth coming off the bench, and a 23-man roster it's important to fill those spots up with more talented guys. We don't have to just stop at a starting 11 which looked great in our past two games, but we don't have to stop just there.
Yeah, and right before we get into the El Salvador match, little preview, another one I want to talk about is Julian Araujo and Efrain Alvarez, 2 guys that are eligible for Mexico. Alvarez still cap tied to Mexico because of the under 17 World Cup, 2 LA Galaxy guys. You're very familiar with both of them. What type of national team futures do you see both of them having if they do indeed choose the US?
See, that's a rough question, because prior to with Alvarez, I really like the guy, and he's a very talented kid, and Really nothing bad to say about him at all. But Julian Araujo still, I believe he's 21, and he's got a lot of work to do. He's a great guy, great player, high up the field, which he could play. We've seen him play high up the field for the Galaxy as a right mid or right winger, but he's very on the defensive side of things. He still has a lot to work on. We saw him in the MLS with multiple red cards, especially in games. He was sometimes one of the more frustrating players as far as his soccer IQ goes. So if he's competing with players in the 11 like Dest, Cannon, Robinson, there's no chance. But I think if he sees the United States as an outlet where he can improve more and he has a chance to, I think he has the potential to be a good guy for us. He just has a lot to work on. Maybe it was just a bad season for the Galaxy. Maybe it's just that the talent is there, but he still has a lot to work on. And as far as Alvarez goes, he's a wonder kid. I mean, he's fun to watch. Not really much to say about him that's wrong, and I really hope that this camp does good for him. If he's cap tied, that's one thing, but being with the boys is another. So I hope this camp does well with him, and because I think he, like Tyler Boyd or those other guys who can come off the bench, Efren Alvarez can be one of those as well. He's a younger guy. Let me see. I think he's 18. Let's see.
I believe he's 18. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
18.
18. So he's yeah, June 19th, 2002. That's crazy. But yeah, he's had some great goals for the Galaxy, even on a poor season overall. He was a bright player to always have come onto the pitch. He has a fair amount of starts. I'm not sure the numbers off the top of my head, but he was a big name player for a big name team like the Galaxy when a lot of their supposed stars were dropping off.
Yeah, and you mentioned both of those guys. I think really where we'll see them get valuable minutes or where they'll really make jumps forward is probably come Olympic time. I think those are two players that will definitely be in the thoughts of who is going to be on the Olympic squad. Alvarez, we've seen him a lot with Mexico recently. He played a little bit for the U.S. under 15 level, I believe, and then he switched to Mexico recently. So that's actually who he's still tied with. He can still do the one-time switch. So hopefully for us, he makes the right decision and plays for the U.S. But Araujo has pretty much only played for the U.S.
Hmm. And both of them, obviously, I'd love for both of them to choose us because that's just more talent in our favor, less talent over in Mexico. So they're both very talented, very young guys, and they could switch on a dime on us. I mean, if both excuse me, if both of them keep playing how they are, I mean, keep getting better. Excuse me. Um, Maybe they get a move in their favor, a move to a different club if Galaxy's not performing to their standard. That would be great for them, and they could. I'm just hoping the United States has, if they go on to having a successful and positive future, we have them as an option still. And it's important to get all of
Absolutely.
these guys as an option.
Now we're going to get into our El Salvador preview, December 9th, this upcoming Wednesday, 7:30 over in Florida Eastern Time. We're going to get into preferred starting 11s for the guys that we want to see Greg Berhalter put out. So, Ryan, who do you got at the goalkeeper spot? I got Bill Hamid.
Yeah, I think undoubtedly he's the guy that's on the roster that strikes us as the guy that's going to be starting. Bill Hamid for me, yeah.
Hamid's another one of those guys, almost in the Kellen Acosta type thing, where we're really excited about him and didn't really quite pan out. So I'm hoping to see how he's doing now that he's back over in MLS, getting another shot with the national team. I wanted to see Ochoa, but he had to leave the squad. So over at right back, I got Julian Araujo. Center backs, the MLS Defender of the Year, Walker Zimmerman, Aaron Long, and then Vines over at left back.
Okay, yes. So similar to that, I have Araujo, Zimmerman, Vines as well, but I threw Mark McKenzie in there just because he's coming off a really strong season, and I think it's important to catch him while he's hot, and let's see how he molds with obviously Walker Zimmerman, who's more experienced, more an older fellow. So let's see how that dynamic works. I'm really looking forward to seeing Mark McKenzie.
Yeah, Mark McKenzie set to get probably his second cap if he appears. I do want to see Zimmerman and McKenzie together. Part of the reason I put Long in there just was because, I just want to see a guy that's probably in our best 11 right now. I think McKenzie and Zimmerman are two guys that are pushing a guy like Aaron Long in and out of it. But yeah, I'm excited to see them, and let's go out of the midfield. I went with Kellen Acosta at the base of the midfield and defense. I want to see what he's like now.
Hmm.
Like, you haven't
I
been
put
with the
him there as
national
well.
team
Yeah.
for a few years. Haven't seen him for a few years. Let's see you come with some fire, and I want to see a performance out of him.
Yeah, I think he has a lot to prove to Greg. He has a lot to prove to the American people as well. I mean, saying that with such authority, as if we have a say in much, but like we want to see him do well. So he's got a lot to prove for us because we know he's got the quality. But obviously he's been gone out for a bit, so let's see if he still has it. I also put Leggett in there with him just because I got a feeling Greg's gonna start him. Um,
He
and
starts him every game
yeah,
for some
so I
reason.
think I think it's going to be Acosta, Leggett, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, Aronson above them.
Yeah, I put Aronson above him. He was probably the player I'm most excited to see. I said at the top of the show, cannot wait to see him play in the red, white, and blue. And then I put Acosta as a Colorado Rapids teammate, Cole Bassett as the other midfielder. Really talented kid. I kind of want to see what he's about, and I want to see him link up with the other boys in the on the national team. And then
Yeah, why
moving into the
not?
strikers, the return of Paul Arriola over on the right. Left wing, I put Alo Akinola. He's more of a number 9, but he can play out on the wing. And then at number 9, Sebastian Soto. I want to see him, dude. I want to see him get an absolutely a real good shot, a big, decent chunk of the game, 50, 60 minutes at least. Start him from the beginning. I want to see what he can do from the start.
Yeah, and I think that's ideally. I mean, if that's why Greg called him, I think there's no question that he's going to be one of the main guys he wants to check out a bit more. So I could see him getting that starts because Greg wants to see how he is, off the get go. Maybe not as an impact substitute, but as our main target man for the game. So apart from Soto down the middle, I want to see Mueller and Ariola off the flanks. So let's see. Obviously, Ariola is a given because I'm so excited to see him. But Akinola and Mueller are two, and DK as well. I mean, we could throw them three younger guys anywhere on the front three, and they'd be dying for minutes. So I just want to see.
Chris Mueller is not a guy that we've mentioned so far on the show. A little bit of an older guy. He's 24 years old from Orlando City, but he had a great end product for the Lions this year. Daryl DK, I want to see him off the bench at some point. So I definitely think that we're going to see Soto and DK. One of them will probably get the start. The other one is going to come off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Two really talented guys. And it's just great. I mean, we keep saying it, how awesome it is to have this many, talented players in the pool now. But depth is going to be a real thing come qualifying.
Yeah. So when it comes down to all those guys that we have now, all those viable options now that Greg's going to be having to choose from. We talked about so many. In our last two friendlies, we talked about how Greg's going to have a hard time choosing from these guys in the future, and now we might have even more guys. So, who I'm most to see, who I think is going to be the most impact for maybe key man, Paul Arriola. Still, I think he's going to be rearing to go, ready to play for in the red, white, and blue, and I think he's going to be more than happy to be at this camp, and he's going to want to take that shot and do the best he can. And he's a great dynamic player, and I think he'll cause El Salvador some problems.
Yeah, for me, it's Brendan Aronson, the kid that's going to join Jesse Marsh over at Salzburg next month. I think he's the key man. We saw him; he's MLS best 11 this season. Creative player, he can chip him with some goals. Got a long shot in him, creating chances. I think everything in this game is going to run through him a bit like it does for Pulisic and the normal team rounds.
Yeah, and granted, El Salvador, this is an opponent that we should run over, no doubt about it. With our best 11, our top guys, this shouldn't be a problem. So
Yeah,
it's sorry.
you go. Sorry, you go.
Oh no, I was gonna just say that this is a good chance to play, to take the risk with some guys and hopefully get the best out of other guys who who have stuff to prove. So this is an opponent that we should be beating and that we should be comfortable beating. So it's let's see some of that talent put on show.
Yeah, I expect much more of a possession-based game today, just based on the caliber of opponent that we have. So guys like Brendan Aronson, even Paul Arriola whipping in crosses should have some good success. Brendan Aronson with those nice little in-between passes, breaking up that defensive line. Score predictions.
Oh geez, I totally forgot. I'm gonna say 3-0.
3-0.
3-0.
I'm gonna go for the clean sheet, but I'm gonna say 2-0. I think Sebastian Soto and Brendan Aronson. So I'm saying those two boys are the guys that get on the score sheet for the U.S. I think we're gonna keep a clean sheet with that strength that we have in the heart of defense, and I'm excited to see the boys play.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm gonna. Now that I think of it, let's see. Yeah, I'm predicting one goal from Soto, and
Hmm.
then maybe a couple from Ariola. I want to see it.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I think
Let's see it.
Ariola's gonna bag. Ariola's gonna bag.
Ariel is gonna bag. All right, can we
Come
put it
back
on
to
the
this
board?
video next week, around the 40th minute mark, whenever we're at right now. Ariola's
40th
gonna
minute
bag.
mark. All right, if
I'm
Ariola
excited to see
scores
him.
between 40 and 45 minutes, hmm, what should I do? We need to have some sort of bet going on here. What are we thinking?
Okay, so
If he scores between the 40 and 45th minute,
see, I think I think we're going into halftime with an Ariola goal, but I just want you to come back to this video and know that I was right. That's all I'm asking.
loser buys lunch.
All right, let's do it.
All right, if he does that, I buy you lunch. All right,
All
done.
right, and
Done deal.
if he doesn't, since it's such oh, excuse me, since it's such a outrageous call maybe to you.
You buy your own food.
Yeah, I'll buy my own food.
All right, sounds good, man. Um, yeah, shoot. Now we're going to get into the young player profile for this week. We have so many young and talented players. And on this week's edition, we got Daryl DK, the young striker, 20 years old from Oklahoma, striker for Orlando City, 8 goals and 3 assists and 17 appearances this season in his rookie debut campaign for the Lions.
Yeah, and with Orlando City's been a strong force in the MLS this season. In his last 4 games with them, pushing them into the playoffs, he's scored a goal in each of them. So he's part of the reason that they were able to make such a strong push towards the playoffs in the tail end of the season, and keep their momentum going. He was leading the line for most of their minutes out there, starting each of the last 4 games and most of the games for this season, for that matter. And he's become in his rookie season, he's become one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, and a quick little fun fact. Do you remember Emmanuel Emenike, the FIFA beast?
Oh yeah,
That's Daryl's cousin. Daryl is of Nigerian descent, grew up in Edmond, Oklahoma, was the number 5 pick in the MLS Super Draft from Virginia. So, he's definitely an up-and-coming player that he's just starting to get his debut and his feet wet in professional soccer.
yeah. And when we talk about this guy being drafted, um, a lot of the reason why he got drafted is because this guy stands out. Not only because he's a great player, but this guy's big. So he's weighing in at 225 pounds. At least that's how Virginia had him weighed before the draft. 225 pounds, 6'2". This guy is an absolute tank. And one of the most striking statistics that I've seen off of his profile is that he was the let me see the one of the second he drew fouls that directly led to 7 goals that season. So off of indirect goals, free kicks, penalties. A guy that big is even getting fouled for his sheer size. A lot of the times we talk about the smaller guys, the more fragile guys being thrown down. But this guy, as big as he is, he's probably physical, a huge presence on the field, and he's still drawing fouls because guys want to get in his face and take him on, and he's using that ability of guys wanting to
Yeah.
challenge a guy that big to draw fouls as well. So it's a good asset to have.
And the difference between him and a lot of big guys, we talk about big guys just being aerial presence. He's good with his feet, created 3 assists this season. He can take on defenders. I think the thing he does best, almost in a way that Josie Altidore does, is he shields the ball well and he can turn and shoot. His ability to turn defenders and then create opportunities for himself and for others, I think is really where he makes his best work. And I cannot wait to see him with the national team. I can't wait to see what he does more of. And this guy's a tank and he can score goals.
Yeah, because we haven't had other than Josie, there doesn't seem to be a huge guy on our roster that's like a go-to target man, like a guy that we could fire balls at, who's good at containing them, who's good with the ball at his feet, receiving it at his feet, taking people on, a guy that we could focus our play towards rather than just finishing the ball in the box or something. So it's making me look forward to seeing more of this guy because of not only his stats in the past, but in college and now with his premier season with Orlando, but just the qualities that this guy has, the potential he has to build with us is something to look forward to.
And one thing that we can't ignore is an issue we've had in the past is if Josie goes down, we can't play the same way. With Daryl DK on the field, we can play the exact same way. With him holding the ball, if he's strong, he can bully defenders. He absolutely can, I mean, you watch some of his highlight tapes and you're like, damn, this dude is just, he looks like a tight end.
Right?
I mean, the dude, like, similarly to the Josie, you can just collect the ball, completely turn a man, knock your defender over legally, and slot it in the top corner. And we won't have to change the way we play. We can fire balls into him, hold the play up while our wingers and midfielders start to make overlapping runs. We play one back, 1-2, boom. Now you got Christian Pulisic running down the wing. The reality is guys like Sebastian Soto, Josh Sargent, that's just not their game.
And as we saw in our last camp, there's the more ways that we have to play. We tried with the false 9. We tried with a number 9. The more options that we have to play, the stronger we are. So if we have different options with Daryl DK now, if we don't have Josie with us, that just gives us another option to play as with that true number 9 target man, or with hold up play and whatnot. So he's just giving us, if this guy is able to develop with us, he's giving us a whole nother dynamic and a whole new way to play.
Absolutely. Hopefully he can get on the score sheet in his debut this upcoming Wednesday. Daryl DK, 20-year-old striker from Orlando City. That's all we're going to do. That's all we got for you guys today. We'll be back with a halftime and post-game IG live shows. So make sure you guys go and check that out. For Ryan Deeb, I'm Chaz Messman. See you guys.
Peace out, guys. See you soon.